Hello, good evening, welcome. Thanks. I'm delighted to welcome you here tonight. I'm Catherine Evans, Chief Curator here at Carnegie Museum of Art, and on behalf of Lynn Zelavansky, the Henry J. Heinz II Director at the museum, I'm so delighted you're here in our gorgeous music hall. Tonight, we are screening Black America Again, a 20-minute film directed by artist and cinematographer Bradford Young, and starring hip-hop artist, actor, and producer Common. A conversation between Bradford and Common will follow. Tonight's event also celebrates the opening of Bradford's multi-channel video, REkOGNIZE, one of the projects of the Hillman Photography Initiative, and on view in our galleries tonight upstairs. Now a few important thank yous. First and foremost, we thank Bradford and Common and welcome them and their friends and families to Pittsburgh. We are also delighted that the family of Teenie Harris is here tonight. Our STARS list of accomplishments is truly extraordinary, and we could not be more proud to have them here with us. We are also grateful to jazz pianist Jason Moran, who composed the score, the moving score for REkOGNIZE. Chief among our, yes. Chief among our collaborators and partners are Mark Thomas and Aaron Weil at Rock and Roll City, Inc., Allison Hales at Think Common Entertainment, Rob Long, Chris Krejci, and the team at Clear Story, and of course our colleagues in the Teenie Harris Archive, as well as the initiative. Thank you very, very much. And finally, for their generosity and vision, we thank the William T. Hillman and Henry L. Hillman Foundations. When you arrived, you received a program card with some exciting upcoming exhibitions. 2020, the Studio Museum in Harlem and Carnegie Museum of Art opens July 22nd. Teenie Harris Photographs, in Their Own Voices, opens July 29th. And William Henry Fox Talbot and The Promise of Photography opens November 18th. Please come back and see them all. And now, here's my wonderful colleague, Divya Rao-Heffley, Senior Program Manager of the initiative, to tell you a bit about it and to introduce our amazing guests.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I am delighted to welcome Bradford and Common and all of you here tonight. This year, the initiative is launching 4 artist-led projects, including REkOGNIZE, that activate photography's measurement of light and time to investigate contemporary social issues. To learn more, please check out our website and on-site hub located in the main lobby of the museum. REkOGNIZE is inspired by the photographs of Charles Teenie Harris and explores the history, legacy, and identity of Pittsburgh's Hill District. The installation opens immediately following this event for those of you who registered in advance. And if you didn't have a chance to sign up, please come back. REkOGNIZE is open through December 31st. Also, check out our galleries, open free of charge until 10:30 tonight, as well as the initiative's virtual reality installation in the Hall of Architecture. And now, on to the show. Black America Again is directed by Bradford and stars Common. It was inspired by Common's 2016 album of the same name and has been lauded across the country as a celebration of the beauty, strength, and spirit of the Black community. Following the screening, Bradford and Common will talk about how this community-oriented film, as well as their respective artistic practices, are challenging majority culture through Black artistic intention, and address some of the questions submitted by all of you in advance. And now, I'd like to introduce our guests. Originally from Louisville, Bradford studied under filmmaker Haile Garima, who we are delighted to have here with us tonight. Bradford is well known for his award-winning cinematography, as well as his video installation practice. His feature-length film credits include DuVernay's Selma, nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture, David Lowery's Ain't Them Body Saints, and Andrew Dosunmu's Mother of George, earning him 2 Sundance Awards for excellence in cinematography, and Arrival, for which Bradford was nominated for an Academy Award. Just yesterday, he got off a plane from London, where he is filming the new Han Solo Star Wars film. Yeah. In addition to Black America Again, Bradford's short films include Letter to the Free, starring Common, which screened at the Tribeca Film Festival in April. Bradford's video installation practice includes Untitled Structures, a collaboration with artist Leslie Hewitt in 2012, shown internationally, as well as at the Studio Museum in Harlem and other museums across the US, and Bynum Cutler, commissioned by Creative Time in 2014 and inspired by Pittsburgh's own August Wilson. Common is an Academy Award, Golden Globe, and Grammy-winning actor and musician from Chicago who continues to break down barriers with many critically acclaimed, diverse roles. Alongside John Legend, he won the Academy Award and Golden Globe in 2015 for Glory as Best Original Song in a Motion Picture from Selma, in which Common appeared as civil rights movement leader James Bevel. Highlights of Common's acting career include Suicide Squad, John Wick Chapter 2, American Gangster, Terminator Salvation, Date Night, and Happy Feet 2. His 11th studio album, Black America Again, includes the new single of the same name featuring Stevie Wonder, as well as Letter to the Free, showcased in DuVernay's powerful Oscar-nominated documentary, 13th. And now, we invite you to enjoy our showing of the highly acclaimed Black America Again.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's all for you, brother.
Nah, come on, bro. Come on, man. Cut it out with the humble. The humble. Thank you all, though. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. That was a lot of hard work and a lot of blood, sweat, and plenty of tears, you know?
Yeah, and love.
And love, yeah. Definitely. Thank you all for coming. There's a lot of folks here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. Pittsburgh.
Before I got some housework to do, but before I do that, I just want to just thank you all for coming out and being part of this moment, sharing them over with one of my beloved brothers, something I've had the opportunity to get to know over the last year. Well, not actually since Selma. Since Selma. So yeah, the connection was genuine and real then. So just thank you for coming out and really coming to be part of a very, very informal conversation. So It's going to be very loose. It's going to be very, very much a long-winded freestyle.
Yeah. We do that a lot.
We do it. So, and I'm a little nervous too, but we'll make it through it. We'll make it through it. But before I do that, I just got to really thank, number one, Carnegie Museum of Art for having this event.
Yes.
I'm just going to run down the names of all the angels that have touched this moment,
Yes.
and specifically with REkOGNIZE. One of our grand angels, Divya Heffley, who is responsible for Dan Lear, who's also responsible for this project. Charlene Foggy Barnett, who's from the T.D. Harris Archives. Natalia Gomez, who's Divya's right hand. And in general, just the whole HPI and T.D. Harris Archive family, thank you so much. Just bear with me, we got to do this before we get into the business. But somebody that's very dear in my life who actually introduced, who made the connection between me, Dan, and Divya is Rashida Bumbre. I'm not sure if she's here tonight, but anyway, she's one of the responsible. She's part of the whole reason why I'm even in conversation with the art world is because of Rashida, and she's one of the sisters who's leading the circle, the Ring Shout in Black America Again. Aaron Weil, my producer, who produced REkOGNIZE and Black America Again. Thank you so much. Mark Thomas, who's her lovely partner and my editor, and an artist in his own right. He's the editor from Black America Again and also the editor for REkOGNIZE.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's my son crying. He's telling me to hurry up. Hey, boo-boo. Maceo Bishop, who is an incredible cinematographer and also worked on REkOGNIZE and did all the beautiful camera work on Black America Again. Sean Peters, also another amazing cinematographer. Kwesi Fonte, who is here. I know he's in the house. He's also one of my mentors, brother who got me even wanted to shoot film. He's been there since day one. Kwesi Fonte, big up. Sakpase, hey, Kwesi. Obviously, Common, who I'm going to tear up and talk about later, but thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much, man. Yep. Thank you. On Madison, who I know is Common's right hand. Allison Jones and the whole Think Common family. I want to thank Mr. Salah Uddin, if he's in the house. One of our Baba Salah, one of Pittsburgh's honorary elders and warriors, and really. Actually, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Baba Salah. Like, he gave me the blessing. He said, "March on, young brother. Do what you have to do." So, also want to thank Miss Cecilia Epperson, who's also another elder in the community, who actually made it possible for me to even be here and really be able to sort of explore Teeny's work the way that I did. Obviously, Teeny Harris's family, who I haven't had a chance to meet, but thank you for keeping the spirit alive, and I hope to touch you when I meet you. I'm almost done. Y'all gotta do this, so I don't do this. I want to thank Elisa Moorhead and her family. Elisa's not here, but she's a big supporter of all the efforts. Two of my dearest best friends in the whole world, Chad Dennis and Emar Hutchins, they're here. Thank you for all your support. And I have to, obviously, and last but not least, my dear, beautiful wife, Stephanie Etienne, who she was the producer of Black America Again with Aaron, and she's the producer of everything in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
The producer of REkOGNIZE as well, and obviously my two sons, Olukai and Ayodele. Thank you so much. And he's already dropping his head like, don't embarrass me, Dad. So, and my whole family's come from far, all the way from Louisville, Kentucky, to be here tonight with me. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you. Sorry, man. I had to do that. But I'm gonna jump into it. So, one of the things that, Steph and I were talking. My wife Stephanie and I were talking, and we're always like having these, late night, early morning, midday conversations about the work we're doing and things that we do. And obviously, when we're having these conversations about family and community and building family and community, is always music in the background. And man, you have been like since I was 13, man, you've been like a constant bit of noise and hum in the background of my life. And so it's just an honor really to even be able to share this moment with you, because it just seems surreal that I would even have this opportunity to be on a platform with you and build with you and make work with you. And part of the reason why it's an honor is because Steph and I always talk about is this idea of Black intentionality in the work. And one of the things about hip-hop is that, as much as I love hip-hop, as much as it's basically raised me, it's also, in a very complicated way, has also been an art form that I feel at some moments is it's undermined my efforts to do better as well, and it's a complicated art form that we have, some of us have a very contentious relationship and some of us have a healthy relationship. I think that balance is really good, but I think what's been powerful about your work is like, when I hear your work, there's always this massive intention in your work, and it's not only what you're saying, it's not only what we hear, but one of the things that I would hope this night would develop into and open up is a conversation about your process. Right. Because one of the things that we don't get a chance to do is that, in this era of like hyper fame, we don't get a chance to actually sit down with the artists, the people that have designed the soundtrack of our life, and actually ask them the questions about how you chose to, put that very specific beat, that very specific note, I would call a Black note, that very specific note in your song that gives me and people I know a very specific feeling, and how you, what's your process? How do you choose those moments? So I really wanted to sort of open up the conversation to that, because I'm working in the film context. The film context, I think, is a context where we're still wrestling with identity. Right. We still don't even, we don't, when somebody says Black music, it's clear. I'm clear, and I'm sure most people in the room, we're all clear what Black music is, and we can define that in our own imperfect, perfect way. But when somebody says Black cinema, we still don't know what that is. Like, what is Black cinema? What is a Black film? Is it a Black film because you have a Black director and Black actors? But if you don't have a Black cinematographer, is it a Black film? Right. These are the questions that we're asking. I think musicians have sort of figured that out. So in a nutshell, I just really would love to just sort of start it off by asking, like, what is it that, like, when you decide that you're going to do an album, when you decide that, let's just say specifically Black America again, when you decided, let's say specifically write that song, what are your steps? You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? Are you working out? Are you cooking? Are you, Are you in meditation? Like, what is it you're doing when you come up with what I consider to be in this, a really important message, a really important concept in our times? It's always important for us because the struggle for us continues. Like, what is it? What's the process? Like, how do you start? Like, how do you start to write? How do you start to think about the idea?
Well, I'm not a good cook, unfortunately. So that definitely is not part of the process. Eating good is part of the process. But seriously, I think the process starts with life. Like, as we were talking, it's like, for any artist to really get the crux of the best art they can create, I think you have to live life. You have to experience life. So I'm making my duty to interact and touch down with people and just stay as rooted as I can with where I come from, the people that I love in my life right now, communities that I get to the opportunity to go visit. I just try to absorb life, and also, living the life that we have as fathers, as sons, as friends, just experiencing those things. So I always felt I was a vessel for life as an artist. But the actual process and the reason why I bring up life is a lot of the things that I may talk about, and it's just like things that I'm absorbing as I go through life. But the actual process of creating comes like from me being around other collaborators, musicians, if we're talking music specifically, and them coming up with some music. And when they create like Black America, again, the specific song, we actually were in Marvin Gaye's studio called Marvin's Room. And we were about to leave because we had did a couple other songs, and Robert Glasper, who was one of the creators of, Robert Glasper and Kareem Riggins, they created that song, and Robert was on the piano just playing those chords, and the chords to Black America again. And I was like, that right there, let's stay there. You know, it's almost anything he touches is like, it's amazing and it's beautiful and it's powerful. But that was like something that felt, it just felt like, it felt soulful, it felt jazz, it felt the spirit. And Kareem took those chords and put some drums to it. And from that point, my process, my best place of writing is riding around in my car by myself. And I don't write the songs down. I just put the music on and I start saying it in my head. I start, basically kind of freestyling to myself. And this particular song was like, I was Black America, again, the song, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine named Maimouna Youssef, and she was talking about Sandra Bland. And I started thinking like how much we talk about them, but their family is still dealing with the loss of somebody. They had a loved one, a sister, a friend, a daughter. And I thought of how emotional that has to be. And then, I just thought about all these things that keep going on in our country that's taking Black life. It's taking Black life. And that was the start of the process of Black America again. And when I got in that car, I just started to write. And it's really, to me, it's a divine expression. It's like, I don't write unless I'm in a divine space. I mean, I'm like, meaning I could sit there in that car for like, and drive, and I could be an hour, and I might not come up with one line. Or if I come up with a line that don't feel like it's coming from that place, it's not getting out there, So everything is in that. I try my best to just get in that divine place and allow the music to come through me,
And just, as we talk about Sandra Bland, and we're clearly still traumatized by that even now. I'm curious again, like the title Black America again, like how did you unpack, like how did that, what's the origin story of that title?
Well, I was, with Black America again, it was, the more we kept mentioning more people, like it was, from Trayvon Martin to Rekia Boyd to eventually, as I was writing it, and finishing up the song, it was Alton Sterling and Sandra Bland previous to that, and Philando Castile, and just this year we've had Jordan Edwards. I was like, man, this is a continuous cycle that America needs to address, and acknowledge. And I called it again because it kept happening over and over. And like, this is not only just from young Black people being shot down or Black people being killed in the streets by law enforcement, but even the dehumanization of Black people from when we first came here. So I was talking about that. This has been a cycle, and it's been different ways to dehumanize us. And that's why I went all through, through the song. I'm talking about it like, man, this is a cycle that, and then eventually as I was writing it, I was like, well, the again has to be, how do we write a new story, right? Like, the again can't just be that this has happened to us, but it's like, nah, it's, that's why I said brainwashed in the cycle to spin, we write our own story, Black America again. And I wanted us to take responsibility in starting to write a new story. We as Black people have always had some beautiful aspects to us, whether it's just community-driven things, the love that we share, the arts that we create, what we do as families and communities, but those stories are not shared as much. And I think, I also felt as the song began to grow, and when you write something, it kind of, the meaning sometimes starts to grow and develop as you listen to it too. And it was like, yeah, this Black America again, this takes all of us to write the story, not just Black people. It's like, it's America, America is responsible for Black people, but that means everybody here in America. But it also means that we got to be responsible for ourselves. So that's where the again came into play, and I always thought like, man, we writing a new story. So I actually was able to get into the studio with Stevie Wonder, and he said, he was humming this melody when he heard the song, and he was like, man, I'm gonna write something for you. I'm gonna write something. And I said, okay, cool. And I thought I was about to come back, but he started humming the melody, and then he said, what really are you saying? I said, man, we writing a new story. And he started singing, we are rewriting the Black American story.
Right.
And I was like, man, this is, when you talk about cycles, first of all, I'm grateful to be up here with you, brother, for real, really grateful to be.
Thank you.
Like, just, anytime Bradford called me and say, be here, I'm gonna be there. Unless something going on with my family, like health-wise or something, I'm going to be there.
I appreciate it.
Bradford made that call, I'm here. And I'm very grateful to be here, but I'm saying that to say it's an honor to be with you because you inspire us as artists all across the board, from musicians to filmmakers to photographers to visual artists. You inspire all of us, you know what I mean? And I'm speaking from me, like, I look at your work and it reminds me of the artist I can be. And so the cycle, I'm getting back to when you said the cycle, because Stevie Wonder was, man, like, I used to listen to Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday song, like Happy Birthday to Me. I had that. I mean, I listened to other Stevie Wonder, obviously, songs in the key of life, but as a kid, Happy Birthday, I used to love that song, right? Like, it was about Dr. King and other.
Yep.
So for me to be in the studio doing a song that's dealing with, like, consciousness in Black America, and to have Stevie Wonder be a part of it, it was a cycle for me too. Because I didn't know that, when I was listening to Happy Birthday to Me, I didn't know that song was created to help create the national holiday for,
Right, that's right.
I mean, I started listening to it more and more, but as a kid, you just kind of sing it and like, yeah, happy birthday to me. But anyway, this cycle really happened, and it was like, man, it's those moments, On just said it, like when we were looking at REkOGNIZE, it's certain moments you have where you like, man, thank you, God, for putting me in this place, for where I am. And that's, to me, that's what how I felt with the creation of Black America again, and with being able to collaborate with you.
Right.
Like, because obviously we got cooler, we getting to know each other more because we working and we talking, and then, even just to be able to be here and see REkOGNIZE, like, it just reminds you of how art is infinite, how when people really do things from a pure place, like, I always try to surround myself and connect with artists that are going to be pure, like, just pure. And Bradford is pure, so it's like, man, I'm like, B, what we doing? I need to see what you're doing. Like, so it's inspiration. So anyway, I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you ain't. No.
We're just talking, brother. We vibing.
We're just vibing. I mean, I think one of the things I want to get back to is, and this is really more of a challenge to us as practicing musician, practicing filmmaker, and I think it's essentially one of the things that we try to tackle with the making of Black America again is that, Steph and I heard you, delivering the lyrics, and we were really inspired, and then we just happened to be texting one day, and then I said, hey man, we just heard that was amazing. You were like, oh, you want to do something? And we decided to do it. And I think one of the, to really highlight one of the requirements that we set forth to do it was that we were really going to try to challenge sort of the structural reality, you know what I mean? The sort of structural reality in which we make these things, right? And I'm going to kind of speak about it from a cinematographer's perspective, from a filmmaker's perspective.
Yeah.
You know, who's operating in an independent film space, also operating in big studio film space. And I kind of want to like let that turn into a question about how do you tackle the structural reality of making music and making music in the music industry. But you know, when we made Black America Again, one of the things that we said was that we have to do this differently, right? And I think that's been one of the things that's real challenging about the film world is that the structural reality of it keeps us out, you know, and it doesn't allow us to function, I think, in a way that allows our voice to flourish, you know. You know, one of the things that I always wrestle with, even today, even after, you know, shooting movies, is that still when I see my like white colleagues work on the screen, I still ultimately still feel a sense of inferiority when I see my work up against next to theirs, you know.
Really?
And I think, and I think a lot of that is like, you know, I grew up on Goonies, Star Wars, and majority cultural movies, and those things feel like real films because all of the tools that they're using, they continue to use in other films, really only sort of, you know, sort of verifies what they consider to be true, is that if you use these tools and you tell this story in this 3-act structure, then you're making a film.
Right.
And, you know, as a film student, when we made films that were breaking, Haile would always say, you have to break this sort of Aristotelian 3-act structure, which isn't organic for us. It's not part of our voice. It was something that was forced on us. Right. And that pedagogy might not necessarily be natural for us. When I see, you know, when I see films that are, you know, when I see films that exist in that 3-act structure, I ultimately think they are the right things. I've spent a whole career trying to unpack that and say that, you know, what I continue to say is decolonize my mind from that 3-act structure,
right.
and really, really try to find my voice within, even if I'm working within the 3-act structure, for lack of a better word, or maybe the right word, is like, what I would say, I still try to bring blackness to the equation, you know. You know, my pedagogy was I went to Howard University, studied under Haile Gerima most of my life, most of my student life, and still my mentor and one of my very good friends, and I live close to him because he's a very important element in my artistic life and my personal life. And you know, part of that decolonizing that decolonization process was to look at my work in a different way. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm unapologetically bring myself to every equation, whether it be Star Wars or whether it be Arrival, in my own imperfect way. And you know, and that's a hard thing. That doesn't always seem like it's going to be an easy thing to sell, but it just, for young people, it just says to me that, you know, we have to continue to push our voice even when we're in spaces that are ultimately culturally hostile. And you know, what I really appreciate about musicians is that, you know, maybe the structural reality is different. From the outsider, it seems like maybe the structural reality is different because for me, black music is our greatest form of resistance, right? Jazz is one of our greatest forms of resistance. It's unapologetically about us, right? It's not just, we're not just saying it, because most musicians aren't saying it, they're playing it, they're actually doing it, right? One of the success of, let's say, for instance, you know, Haile Gerima's films is that Haile Gerima's not just saying, he's actually showing us resistance in the film. And I think what we try to do at Black America Again is really, again, try to push that structural reality. So when you came on our set, it wasn't the normal. We weren't following the normal schedule. We weren't, you know, the way we communicated to one another was different. You know what I mean? It wasn't a hierarchy of a director and a cinematographer. You know, we shot in Baltimore. When we shot in Baltimore, we asked permission. You know what I mean? We didn't just come up with a camera and start shooting. We actually brought the elders and the people of the community together to say, will you give us permission to proceed? So it's just like, again, trying to figure out a way to attack the structural reality so that the art form itself speaks more innately to who we are.
I got a question for you.
Well, I was going to, okay, go ahead.
So, because I was thinking, you know, attacking that structural reality, like, and breaking past that, what is your process as far as, like, when you heard the song Black America Again, and then you were like, okay, I'm going to figure out something to do to this, but you hadn't figured it out yet. What does it start with you? Like where? Because I always wanted to know that.
Well, for me, it's real local. It's like it's what's right up under my nose. You know what I mean? Like for me now, it just starts with my children. It starts with my wife and my children and my family. So if they can't be part of the process, you know, if I'm gonna relinquish my identity as a cinematographer and direct things, then the first story I'm gonna tell my grandmother's story. I'm gonna tell my children's story. I'm gonna tell my aunt's story. You know what I mean? And so it just starts with family first. And I think, you know, that's the beginning. If I can see myself in the story, it's like when I get a script. If I can see myself in the story, then I'm willing to tell it. The characters in the film don't have to look like me, but I have to, you know, I mean, in Arriva, obviously Louise doesn't look like me. Her story is very unique. But her journey to like unravel the mortality of her children and the mortality of herself is something that I could identify with. You know, something like Ain't Them Body Saints. You know, on the surface, it doesn't look like the story that the kid that shot Pariah would shoot. But when I thought about those characters in that film were renegades to me. They reminded me of the grandchildren of the progressive, socialist, hardworking, civilian conservation corps workers of the New Deal. And if they had grandchildren, what would their grandchildren be like? They would be radical thinkers of their time. You know what I mean? They would be willing to rob banks to make a come up for the revolution. And that's how I saw those characters. You know what I mean? And it's like with all of my like crazy aspirations, I saw myself in there. That's the dream, you know. And so I have to see myself in the story. And obviously with something like you know, Black America again, everything you're saying in the song is what I'm always thirsty to hear. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I'm never going to be exhausted from a reminder that, you know, the struggle is continuous. And, you know, so that's how I usually get into the work. But I'm really curious in like, because, and this you know, this conversation going forever, but I'm really curious because I really do see Black music as being like its own unique utopia. You know what I mean? Where you guys show up and don't have to ask permission from anybody. Well, especially nowadays because major labels don't control the conversation as much. You guys don't have to ask permission. You can actually bring yourself, all of who you are, to the table. You know, do you like? How do you like? Or have you already exercised it? How are you dealing with sort of the structural reality? I mean, you know, for instance, is it through distribution? Is it through your other colleagues in the industry that aren't thinking about time and space the same way? You know, is it you know, how are you able to build bridges with that? You know, how do you challenge within your own relative artistic space? Like, how do you change the structural reality of what you're doing?
Well, I always thought of hip-hop for me has always been a place for me to express some things that I didn't normally express in my life. I didn't have the courage yet at 12 to say some of the things that I would say in a rap. And it's funny because I'm like, I didn't have the confidence in interacting with people, but I had the confidence when I was rapping. And it helped me discover some things about me, you know, because I would eventually like go back and hear things that I said in rap and be like, man, I really think like that. And as much as you want to say it's an alter ego or whatever, it's a part of you. Even, you know, your imagination is still something that you're connected with. So I think hip-hop allowed me to break the structural reality of being just a young kid raised by his mother and eventually stepfather in the Midwest that had to kind of fit into a box, you know, for a second because, you know, they want the best for you and they teaching you like, hey, go to school, get good grades, go get a job. But music and art kind of allowed me to get out of that box and see something else about myself. And even though I continued to go to school and do those things, I was discovering more things as an artist, as an MC. And those things helped me to break out of the structure, right? And each time I would evolve, like meaning put out some music. I get to travel to places I never went to before. I've been to Pittsburgh. This is my 3rd time in Pittsburgh. I never would have got to come to Pittsburgh, you know, just on a regular, you know, so. But then, you know, you come to Pittsburgh and you start getting led to different things, like even today, just getting the experience recognized. But in general, you start going to these different places and you start to gather information, right? And then you gather that information and it's like, oh man, it ain't no box I gotta stay in. Like, I'm good. Like, I just seen something in France that was incredible. I've been to Japan and seen something. I've been to Pittsburgh and seen something incredible. I've been to Austin, Texas and witnessed something that was, you know, different things that just make me understand that it's a whole world out there and you don't have to stay in a box. And actually, it's like staying in a lane, but that lane is continuing to evolve.
Right.
You know, and that's how I pictured it, and that helped me to break through any of the structure, you know, because I kept getting exposed to new things, and I keep getting exposed to new things. And when all else fails, if I'm ever caught up in like what the record label thought this should be and that should be, I just go listen to jazz music, man.
Right.
Jazz,
Right.
like it take me out, like it make me realize I can be anything and do anything.
Well, you know, there's some, and kind of going back to, and I'm glad you brought up jazz, like kind of going back to this idea of like Black intentionality. I'm gonna bring up one song that really hit me as a sort of chord, and I really want you to talk about it too, how you develop these ideas in your work. But you know, Kendrick Lamar's song "Mama," there's like a bell. I can't describe it. It comes like every 2 or 3 seconds in the song, but it's a tink. It's a tink, and that tink reminded me of like all the nights I would sit in my big sister's room. My sister Sasha had this like room in her bedroom in our house that we grew up in. The house we grew up in actually happened to be the house that my aunties and my uncles grew up in, so it was a really special place. But and all my cousins and I all grew up there. We spent so much time there. But my sister in her room, she had like walls of like, she had like the Eddie Murphy corner.
Yeah.
And then on one, you know what I'm saying? And then on the other wall, she had like the New Edition corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember when De La Soul dropped, Three Feet High and Rising, you know what I mean? She had the wax, and she had like a record player in the corner of her room. It was like this black record player with little red accents on it. And like, she would spin albums. Man, she would be spinning The Deal and like, you know, Shalimar and all that, and I'd be waiting, man. I'd be waiting for her to spin De La Soul.
Yeah.
But it's like sitting in the corner of her room, falling asleep, waiting for her to spin that one record. Those little tinks remind me of like, for some reason, it's that thing. It's that very atmospheric, undescribable thing that reminded me of like, when I hear it, Mom, it reminds me of like hot summer nights in Louisville, Kentucky. It reminded me of like eating dinner at my grandparents.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like being in my Aunt Marie's basement, you know, my cousin Amy and Ty. You know what I mean? Just like that tink reminds me of those things. And it's like, I know that Kendrick Lamar put that tink in the song. It's not just because it's a good sound.
Right.
It's because he's connected to a feeling.
Yeah.
A similar feeling that I have. It's like summer nights in Compton. His parents are from Chicago. It's like, it's a similar stroke. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like this idea of intentionality, I think, and this is, you know, it's not just to unpack it for young people, it's to unpack it for everybody. But, you know, I think young people, when they see you as a performing artist, as an actor, as an activist, they think it's just, you just show up, you go to the studio, you freestyle, you go home. But it's like, man, Tupac was in the studio every day for 15 hours a day. You've seen the footage of him, like, telling the best MC of the time, get off the couch, go in the studio and write a rhyme. We gotta work. I think we forget that there's rigor, there's intention, you know what I mean? And in that intention, there's some really beautifully embedded things that somebody like Kendrick Lamar and Mama checked into with that team. And that I know is very present in your music because I study your music and I've been listening to it for so long. Can you share with us one of those like secret little, maybe it wouldn't be a secret, but like one of those special melodic, like I hear it in your music, like you were just sharing, you know, your current project with me. It's all over Black America Again, the album. Like Unfamiliar, man, like the way Unfamiliar makes me feel is like similar to the way Take It Easy made me feel, or Resurrection made me feel, or I Used to Love Her made me feel. And there's some common tonal things that happen that are uniquely common. So I really would love to hear, and I think people would love to hear you sort of talk about that. Like, what's your practice around those things? You know, those things?
Well, I think, you know, my mother didn't play a lot of music growing up, right? So my babysitters played music, and I remember them seeing Minnie Riperton and seeing, you know, Earth, Wind, and Fire, these record covers, Shaka Khan, the Commodores. That was just ingrained in wherever we went. It just was that music. It was a soul in the music. It just created a feeling like that makes me think like you said, it could take you somewhere. It was a soul that was created in that music that when I see the Minnie Riperton cover, I think about my babysitter and I think about that house and the smells of it and everything, the good cooking, all of it, right? But so that soul was something that I just it innately was something that I am attracted to and connected with. So when I start picking out music or sounds, the intention is to create a feeling that people can respond to, that will energize people and touch their souls. And I want to touch their souls in a way that has the intention of what I feel from the music to feel like, or what my experience has been, and I want them to kind of go through that experience with me, because no matter what art that I've grown to love, when I watch Do the Right Thing, I went through that experience with them, you know, like all the characters, or when I hear Love Supreme, John Coltrane, it's like I go through that experience, and I you know, I can go and have my own experience in it, but I feel a feeling when I get it, and I want to create that with the tones that I choose, the songs, and I'm not like I haven't studied music like that, meaning I didn't go to school for music, and if people put charts in front of me, I'm just gonna be like, let's vibe, man. Let's just vibe.
Right.
But something that is important that you said is that it has been now for me maybe 2.5 decades, up to close to 3 decades that I've been writing music, like writing raps, poems, art. So it's been a consistent work and intention to be like, to get better, to learn more. If I'm in this craft, I feel like the important part for us as artists is to take, if you have a passion and a gift that God has given you, you got to take those talents and multiply them, you develop them, you grow it. So my working at the craft was me going to rhyme over in these dudes' basements when I knew I wasn't as good. I had to get better.
Right.
You know, going to do shows and people throwing pennies at me,
Right.
and like, you know, and experiencing that and being like, okay, I got to come back and get better. But my intent is to get better so that I can create this feeling that I realize what music can do, what music and art can do. I wrote a song called Retrospect for Life that was dealing with abortion, and it was something that I experienced, and I wanted people to feel that. And I eventually got Lauryn Hill to sing on it, and it was just like the feeling came across the way I wanted it to. And that intention was like, man, I need to express this story. I need to tell this story because I don't want other people to have to go through the same thing. Or if they do, I want them to know somebody is out there with them, you know. And I think for me, I pick and choose to make music that is going to have a soul to it, and it's going to be an intention that people can relate to and hopefully shift their lives. My major intent of the art that I create is to inspire people and to motivate them to reach the highest within themselves, to like basically essentially moving closer to God and the God within them. That's really my music and my intention of everything I do as an artist. It may not always, you know, it's still gonna be raw, still gonna be in the language that I speak in at times, but even that is evolving and growing, and I have no shame with that. And one thing I wanted to say I was thinking about what you said about black music being unapologetic and like not falling victim to a lot of the walls, or, you know, the walls. I think one thing hip hop allowed us to do was just to be ourselves, just to be who we are. We didn't, like, I could go into a meeting and still, just be me, like, and it was okay, and we were able to do that on the stage. Like, it wasn't like, hey, let me put on this uniform. And I don't think it's anything the matter with someone going into a professional setting and operating in the way that professional setting operates, because if you join a company, they may have a culture, and you gotta work the way that culture is if you want to be a part of that company. But hip-hop let us break out of being a part of a company, and we were like, yo, I like wearing my beard like this, or I'm gonna wear these high tops, and I'm gonna talk about Islam, I'm gonna talk about Christianity, I'm gonna talk about, like, coming up with these characters. Hip-hop just really allowed us to be who we are unapologetically, and that's why with it being in the forefront of black music for so long, people can feel that, like, black music is not falling victim to what so many other art forms have. And don't get me wrong, there's still stuff out there that's very commercial, and they try to make a format and make it to the pop level, but on a whole, as you started from the beginning, Bradford saying, is like, sometimes hip-hop is so raw and so truthful for what people are experiencing that sometimes you're like, man, I don't know if I can listen to this anymore if you ain't in that place anymore. Right? That's just the truth of the matter.
Right.
But it also is truthful in a way that's like, you can listen to Kendrick Lamar and he'll give you something else, another experience, or Chance that'll give you another experience. So I love the fact that we can, that we don't fall into I keep saying the box or the walls, and I love that hip-hop has been that voice for us as artists, and I think it's important that you as a filmmaker, as a cinematographer, as an artist, take that to Hollywood or to the world of film, and we need you, like, to be in there, Brad and I, we've had those talks where it's like, him as an artist, he's like, man, should I do that big movie like Star Wars? Yes, brother, yes, yes, please. Like, it's like, I think, to me, that's the concept of, honestly, that's what we need more in America. I'm gonna use it right now just from the film world. The film world need to see brothers like you with consciousness, with a soul, with integrity, with vision, with new ways to break. So that Olu, if he decides to be a filmmaker, or any of the youngins here decide to be filmmakers, black or white, or Latino or Native American, whatever color you are, they come into a world that's more open for them. And we don't have to fall into the things that you said, that you at first was like, oh, it gotta be in 3 acts, it gotta be this.
Right.
When I look at Black America, it's like, man, you just created an art piece that every time I watch it, I can have a different interpretation of it. And why can't filmmaking be that artistic?
Right.
Why can't it? Like you said, music has been that in so many ways, then we got to do it. And like, you are one of the people in the forefront of doing it. I mean, you took it to the Oscars. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But see, you took it to the Oscars, but you also took it to the streets of Baltimore. And you were like, look, this is what, and while we were doing that, I mean, we are in the community. We working on this film, and we are in the community. We paying respects to the people from the hood, the elders. We come in there like we're right with the respect and respecting the community, building with the people. I got to use the bathroom. I'm going in people's houses that live there. I'm going to use the bathroom. But I'm saying we connecting though, and it's important that we bring it from the places we come from, the rooted places, the hill in Pittsburgh, all the way to Star Wars. To Star Wars. And I think that mentality of that we bring from hip-hop, and it's not only hip-hoppers that have it,
It
just
is.
artists
It
that
is.
are revolutionary, artists that stand for something and stand in their pureness and their integrity. If we bring that to every place we go, then we end up improving the world, to be honest. Because the reason why I was saying I'm gonna say it on a bigger level is a lot of the problems that we've been experiencing in America sometimes basically comes down to a lot of nationalities, we don't be in proximity of each other. I grew up in Chicago. It was black, white, and Mexicans. We didn't interact at all, right? That's just the truth of the matter. If I don't really get to interact with you, I don't really know your culture and respect your culture like that, and I'm seeing you from afar, then I'm letting other people determine who you are as a people. Because this is what I see on the news, and this is what I see through media, this is what I see. So I'm not getting a chance to be in proximity of your being, who you are, your culture. And I think when we get into those places where we usually not, and they get to see an incredible visionary like yourself, then that just breaks down all their stereotypes and walls. You know, and essentially that's why we got to do it.
That's why we have to work together. That's why we have to hold hands.
Yeah.
Well, we are out. Our conversation is over. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for. And Divya, just give me 1 second. I just want to say, I mean, this is really what REkOGNIZE is about. You know, like when you guys go to see it, it's about if I do anything as an image maker, before I put the camera down and just be with my family full time, you know, part of what Hailey taught me is like to demystify our heroes, demystify our artists. And I think, you know, we might not know for 1,000 generations what it means to allow our community, allow humanity, allow our young people that we care about so much to hear you just talk about what you do. You know what I mean? I think part of what's beautiful about Teeny's work is that his work was so local but so global at the same time, and that I'm a kid from Louisville, Kentucky. Like our equivalent of Teeny was Nat Brown, and like, you know, so the story of Teeny is a universal story for us because there is a Nat Brown, there is a Van Der Zee, there is a Teeny Harris. But part of what REkOGNIZE for me is just a young kid from Louisville, Kentucky, demystifying, trying to understand the meta of a photographer that I'm like obsessed over. And you know, these conversations, there was not always a space for these kind of conversations to happen. So to leave the residue behind, we have to continue to have these conversations so that, you know, you're Rashid, you're not just common, you know what I mean? You're an artist that works hard and loves what you do, and you love who you make the music for, and I think it's really important for folks to just hear that. And thank you. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
That was incredible and powerful and moving. Thank you so much, Bradford and Common, for sharing that with us and allowing us to be a part of it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite the audience members whose questions were selected in advance to take their turns at the mic and ask their questions of our guests. I would ask that each of you please tell us your name and then ask your question.
Hi, I'm Layla, and my question is, do you feel that us black people will finally get our black America that we desire? Meaning, do you believe one day we'll be able to celebrate our culture in a positive way with other cultures without the problem of cultural appropriation, racism, stereotypes, and et cetera?
Yes, I do believe we'll be there. And because of people like yourself and people that care, that are going to like make the effort to figure out and strategize and create the change. And the change is going to be like, it's on so many different levels. Some of it is just, first and foremost, just taking care of our families and taking care of ourselves and making sure, like, be an example of what blackness is and the beauty of blackness. If we can do that just for ourselves and our families initially, that's going to go out there and spread out there to the world. But then as you make strategized efforts, if you see issues going on that can help stop the racism, then we do it. Whether it's, I'm just naming things, but a lot of these things obviously matter. Better in our educational system. If you have an issue with the educational system here in Pittsburgh, then if it's a problem, you got to figure out how can you help change that. How can you be a part of it? And make sure that the children, the kids that you see are not getting educated, get exposed to things, and if it's not always waiting on the political structure. Yes, the political structure makes some decisions for our lives and they affect us, but they don't make the core decision of how we look at ourselves and what we can do and how we empower ourselves. So, and we are bigger than the government. God is greater than the government. So I guess, as you all can see, I'm long-winded with my answers, but yes, to answer your question is yes, and it's going to take the energy and effort of people like yourself and you galvanizing people and doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say there's a beautiful we know him as Riz, but there's a beautiful Southeast Asian, London-born Pakistani actor named Riz Ahmed. He's in Rogue One. He's also one of the members of the Sweatshop Boys, and he's a wonderful actor, but he's also a wonderful, in the UK, he's an amazing activist. And Divya and I were talking about this today, how the Southeast Asian community has mobilized around moshing up Islamophobia. That's a big, and the young Southeast Asian community in London has taken on the effort to create real activism around that. Riz, every year, one actor of color is invited to Parliament to talk about the condition of performers, actors of color in the British film industry. Last year, Idris Elba, and this year, Riz did it. And just bear with me as I just kind of tell you the story, but it goes back to something Common said earlier about us writing our own story, telling our own story, right? I think that is critical. And I think one of the things that, I'm bringing up Riz because one of the things he said to Parliament was, if you're from Southeast London, if you're from white church, where 3 girls packed up their bags, got on an airplane, didn't ask their parents' permission, ended up in Syria, joined ISIS, only one came back. That's a real story. They all went to the same private school. Their parents came from Bangladesh. They worked hard, struggled in London. That's a difficult life. And their daughters packed up their bags, went to Syria, and joined ISIS. Riz's story is, if you want to create a different complexity or a different reality for the young black and brown working class white child in England, you need to write the counter narrative. What is the counter narrative? It's not enough to just say they hate democracy and so that's why they go join ISIS. That's the easy way out. The problem is that when most Southeast Asian, black, white working class youth in London turn on the television, all they see is Downton Abbey. They don't see themselves, right? The white working class kid has felt like he's been part of the serfdom for 400 years, right? They shut down factories in Birmingham, they shut down all the factories in Liverpool, he still feels like the serfdom. The kid from Jamaica, whose grandparents came there on the Windrush, never made it past A-levels and is still just chasing a job. The Southeast Asian kid has a layer of complex things going on. Yeah. They're threatening to make his mother take off her hijab. You know what I mean? There's a constant terror threat. So there's a complex nature of things that make kids pack up their bags. Middle-class kids who lose hope in life pack up their bags and join ISIS. And his challenge is, if you want to create a society where these kids aren't doing this, invest money in writing the counter-narrative. You know, let me tell my story. And I think if you look across the world and you see rational or irrational, however you define it for yourself, struggle, most people embedded in the struggle on the front line, if you ask them what their main complaint in the experience of life is, they'll tell you is, you have not allowed me to tell my story. And so I think we have to tell our story. We have to create the counter. We have to create the counter narrative. As Carmen said, I mean, unless they impeach this dude, don't expect for the next four years we're gonna get the counter narrative. It's just not gonna happen. I'm not waiting for them to give us money to write the counter narrative. You know, we have to create the counter narrative for ourselves.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Layla.
Hello, my name is Elise. Music has been an integral part of Black lives in our quest for freedom, from spirituals to hymnals to Marvin and Nina and Stevie to NWA, Tupac, and yourself. So my question is, do you feel that the current state of Black music is carrying on that legacy? And if you do, in what way?
Well, you want to take it?
No, that's you, bro.
Okay. I try to throw it, but I feel like there are some moments with their artists, and I keep going back to Kendrick. But Kendrick, I think he's a great example of someone who's carrying on the torch of, as far as cultural, like saying things that at least make you think and examine who we are and as Black people, and making you think about a different voice that you hear coming from Black people, which I think when you said NWA, that's what I had got from that in Public Enemy. But then you also have artists, I think Solange, like what she did with her project it wasn't all like, okay, this is the revolution, but it did have those tones of things, and she said it in her way, where it was like, don't touch my hair. You know, like I can say that too now, you know. But the point being is that, I think there are artists out there that bring out the spirit of some of the music you're talking about. It may not be as what's going, it may not come through the form of what's going on or fight the power like a direct, but it still is there, the energy and the spirit of it. Now, as a whole, do I feel that the music is saying that? No. And I'm just going to be honest, the majority of music I'm hearing doesn't have that type of consciousness where it's trying to wake a consciousness in And that is disappointing in some ways, because it's such a great opportunity to shift things and to change things. And mind you, if it's conscious, it's still got to be fresh. You still got to make it dope. You know what I mean? Like, we ain't going to listen to something just because it's saying something preachy or saying something. In fact, you don't want it to be preachy. Like the music that, when I was singing those songs, like I said, with Happy Birthday, or when I was singing like Fight the Power, I felt good singing that. Like, it felt good to sing it, but I was singing something that was uplifting, that was empowering me and us. So there are some artists out there. As a whole, no, we're not getting that in Black music the way it had been in certain eras, but I think everything evolves, and I tend to look at the positive things that's going on in it and try to draw off that, and also try to put out there what I want to hear. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Saran. Black history plays a very prevalent part in Black America again. There is a visually poignant reminder throughout the piece calling on us to know our history, our stories, appreciate the value of our families, communities, and spiritual healing. How does one reconcile that deep history and those deep stories while hearing lyrics that remind us of the harsh realities of our constant struggle?
Right. Well, I think it's important, that we acknowledge what happened, and a lot of us do know, but one of the things I found out in any type of healing process is that you first acknowledge what the issue is. You got to find out what the issue is and then say, you know, I have a drinking problem. I'm an addict. I'm a whatever it may be. In that context of writing a new story, I have to acknowledge some of the things that where the wrongs have come and even the root of it, and hopefully give enough within that song to say, oh, this was the root of it, and this is why we see it keep going on, and we know why it's going on, and though I can't offer all the solutions because I don't know all the solutions, hopefully me just saying and us telling this story visually, saying, you know how we write a new story? By humanizing who black people are in our country, by looking at each other. And that's why as soon as Bradford told me, man, picture, I'm gonna have just kids looking in the camera like I was like, oh, that is incredible, bro. It was like I love that idea. He sent me just a couple visual ideas that he had, and he was like I'm thinking like just Olu, like his son, just he thinking about him, and he was telling me where his inspiration was coming from, and I was like, man, it's amazing how it is when you collaborate with artists, because my whole thing of saying Black America again and looking at the footage of like an Alton Sterling, I was like, man, they just not really looking at the fact that this is a human being they doing this to. This is a person that's like somebody's father. This is a human being, whether, you know, you don't even know their background and know anything, but yo, this is a human being you're doing something to. And the fact, and we can't always counter that with just being like, we are human beings. Sometimes you counter that with just showing a human story. And I think that's what Bradford was able to do with Black America again. He just showed the beauty of us, and it make you kind of like, wait, they just like me, you know? That's what we were getting in some of those films, and some of the films you're talking about whether it was Stand By Me or Goonies or those movies that we talked about. Some of it was just, we started to understand like what white culture was to a certain degree, you know, like, and we recognized them. So now we doing it. I didn't mean to use your thing, recognize, but it didn't work, right?
Totally.
But now we're doing it through the filmmaking. And Brad, I guess you could add on because you told it visually. Well,
I was going to say, there was not necessarily talking directly about Black American yet. By the way, it's one of my family members. But anyway, yesterday I met with a wonderful writer, local, Brenton Mock. Is he a Brenton here by any chance? Yeah, there he is. Brenton asked me a question about, and he actually sent me the article. I haven't read the article yet, but he sent me an article today, and he was, we were talking about Teeny's work, and I just want to kind of take it back to Teeny because I think it's an important notion around this question. It's like, you know, we were talking about Teeny, and he reminded me that how important image making was in determining how cities were developed, you know. Photographic images were helpful, obviously surveying and things were helpful as well, but like the photographic image was an important element in the development, the project of developing towns and cities, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And we were looking at Teeny's work, and one of the things that we sort of were building on was this idea that, you know, the power, and I would say it's slightly conspiratorial, but I was having a conversation with my Aunt Shay today, and she was saying that, no, it's empirical. We have evidence. It's like, yeah, there could be the conspiratorial element to it, but a lot of what we are talking about is evidential, right? And so, you know, the power of the image is that it, and especially with Teeny's work, is that it humanized us. It unapologetically humanized it. It wasn't part of an agenda. It wasn't a part of necessarily even a pedagogy. It was, he was shooting the people he loved and the people he lived around, and that was his life's duty. That was his life's work. That was his life's work as a practitioner. My opinion is that, you know, if I wanted to cut off the vitality of a community, you know, what I would do, the thing the images do is that they provide evidence that we are actually human. And what I see in Teeny's work is evidence that Black people actually are just normal. Right, that we are mundane, right? That we eat, we sleep, we play jazz, we buy flowers, we get married, we have car accidents. You know what I mean? I'm really speaking about Teeny's work, right? That it normalized us, and it was a powerful tool because it didn't provide ammunition to the argument that we were inferior. It actually just mapped out Black life in the Hill District, and that these people that we've created this narrative, this other counter narrative, this man is providing evidence that our narrative is not true. And I think, in a slightly more conspiratorial way, that it was just greater evidence to put a stadium right in the middle of the community and cut off the vitality of the community. So I think, the conundrum is that, and I'm saying this because this is what I have to reconcile as an image maker, is that the art form in which I work in has been used as an anthropological tool to justify my inferiority, right? I'm working in an art form that was like forged by Birth of a Nation, right? The technical barometer for filmmaking, even in the 21st century. So if you put Steven Spielberg, the best in the room, and they were talking about what is the canon of the best, Birth of a Nation would be at the top. As a person of color working in an industry, to hear that Birth of a Nation is at the top of the charts is problematic, right? So I have to reconcile the fact that the tools weren't created to photograph me, right? Actually, 2 South African artists prove that. They showed you where the color calibration chart for Kodak film, when you roll that chart off in the laboratories, the medium calibration for the most amount of detail you can render out of the film stock was calibrated, not for my skin tone. You know what I mean? So I'm working in a medium where I know that, but what I have to do is create, again, the counter-narrative, which is what Malik Saeed, Arthur Jaffa, Ernest Dickerson, Johnny Simmons, Haile Garima, Charles Burnett, Kathy Collins, all these folks, what they did was create the counter-narrative. Where's the sweet spot for us, right? I'm not gonna throw out the baby with the bathwater. I still wanna be a filmmaker. I still wanna make images, but I have to find where the sweet spot is for us. So I think this is with any profession, right? We all reconcile. Your cousin is a midwife. It's like, how do you reconcile wanting to provide something essential to people, but midwifery is only, in America, midwifery is only available for those who have money. So how do you reconcile that? It's a necessary thing to help people bring babies into the world in a healthy, non-evasive way, but it's only available for people who got money. And so I think we're always specifically trying to reconcile with the difficult parts of our practice and our profession, and where's our agency in that? And I think that's going back to what I think we try to do, is like, let's decolonize the process. I know that I have, it's in me. It's in me to take that wide-angle lens and put it against a character's face. They can't hold up to that wide-angle lens. And the problem, reason why, in a perfect world, if I put the wide-angle lens on a subject, all is fair, all is good, and all is just. It would just be me putting a wide-angle lens on a young Black child's face. But the residue left behind by Western, Eurocentric, anthropological practices that use photography to justify inferiority makes me take a step back, because I know that we haven't exercised that out of our consciousness. And that there are a lot of films, I can name a list of films even now that continue to sort of perpetuate those stereotypes. So I think it's just, part of that is knowing your story, knowing, number one, not that it's necessarily the next man's problem, right? One of the things that I learned studying, sorry, Divya, I'm gonna stop real soon. But part of what I learned from Haile Garima is that in the 21st century, the new baggage carriers of white supremacy are not white folk. It's going to be us. It's going to be us. And how do we wrestle with that? You know what I mean? Ari just provides me with the camera and the lenses. It's what I do with it that I have to be extra careful with.
Ew.
Can I say one thing before?
Of course.
First of all, it's been great to be here. It's wonderful. Like, this has been monumental for me. I feel blessed. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for having me. When I walked on the stage and we were looking at Black America again, like going through the testing of it, I was looking on the stage and I was like, man, I wish I was able to perform here, like do a show. and well, yeah. Anyway, look. So, no, no. So anyway, come to find out, I'm actually coming back to Pittsburgh July 20th to perform at, do you know which spot it
The
is?
Pittsburgh Symphony
Yeah.
in Heinz Hall.
Yeah. So we're going to have a symphony and an orchestra, so I had to make sure I let you all know, because I really look forward to being able to do that and perform and like have the orchestra and just do something special and be able to do it in Pittsburgh. So thank you all, and I just wanted to make that point before we go.
Yeah. Well, many, many thanks to the wonderful audience members who submitted questions. And thank you to all of you for joining us here tonight. And once more, very, very deep, heartfelt thanks to Bradford and Common. Please join me in one last round of applause.
Thanks, man.